I wish to start with a few very simple but impactful words. Believe in yourself. You are far more brave than you think, and more talented than you know, and capable of more than you can imagine. I am Meena Shah, an educator with many years of experience. I was only 19 when I started my career, with a grand salary of rupees 300. I remember the day I graduated. The question was, now what? In those days, it was the trend to join the bank. However, I wanted to be a teacher. My parents were very supportive. My mother is right here. So my parents were very supportive, and they encouraged me to join this very, very noble profession. And after a couple of interviews, I got a job at one of the schools in this very city of Ahmedabad. So I feel so nostalgic today, and it brings back so many memories. So thank you, Team LAJA, for having me here today to tell my story. So I worked for 8 long years in this school. And not only do I have ex-students, but I also have grad students today. I'm sure you're wondering, what are grad students? I can see the question in many of your eyes. Well, after 33 years, one of my ex-students called me up from right across the globe and said, will you teach my children? Her children are my grand students. I was so touched with the faith and the trust that she showed me. And I feel so very joyous to be able to teach them today. So, after a few years, I met my soulmate. And of course, life changed forever. Along the way, I joined the Times of India's NIE program. And there I learned that education could be made fun and exciting for students. I thus decided to start what I call the workshop Fun and Learn. I was very excited about this. I planned, I prepared, and yes, I advertised. I got so many inquiries. The phone would not stop ringing. I was so thrilled. However, just the day before the workshop was about to begin, I had not received a single registration. I was in tears. I was extremely upset. My father-in-law came to me and said, don't cry, be patient. Your students will come. I continued with the preparations, but of course with much doubt. However, just a few minutes before the class was about to begin, I heard the excited voices of children coming to my home, and my class had begun. The support given to me by my father-in-law gave me courage, the courage to go on. I also learned the invaluable lessons of belief in oneself and conviction in one's ideas. It was 1990. At that time, computers were a rarity and also very, very expensive. However, I decided to start another workshop which was called the Computer Kid. Of course, a lot of investment was required, for I would need more computers, and of course, in those days, the price tag was very high. However, I still wanted to do this, and the investment as in not only just buying the computers, but of course, salaries for teachers, and many other costs were involved. Many people were against this idea and felt that this was not a good thing to do. I was even told, Taru nak kapai jase, please don't do this. So keeping these doubts in mind, I wondered whether I should go ahead with this or not. However, I realized that I did want to follow my heart. I was sure that I would succeed. I went ahead with this idea, and yes, it was a success. And I'm so proud of it. So I also discovered during this process that I had many strengths and many abilities. And though the path was strewn with obstacles, I could overcome them. I had the courage to overcome, all the doubts and all that were cast upon me. Soon, my son was born. And we moved from Ahmedabad to Mumbai. Along the way, as I taught him, I realized that there was a dearth of practice material for children of the ICSE board. So I would make worksheets for my child as any diligent mother would. And as I did so, an idea came upon me. Why not make a comprehensive book and publish it so that other students could use this too? Again came the question, who will buy your book? Don't waste your time and energy on this. This time, I was determined. I realized that, or rather, I wouldn't say I realized, I felt that this was a very good idea. Why should I not do it? I went ahead and published 100 books and sold them at the nearby booksellers. The books were a hit. They were sold so fast, they sold off like hotcakes. I felt such a great sense of satisfaction because I saw even children from my building studying from them. However, to my utter dismay, I also found one of the booksellers was actually Xeroxing them and selling them illegally. I was completely shocked. How could such a thing happen? And yes, I felt great anger. How dare he do such a thing? It was my hard work, my book, my copyright. How could anyone do this to me? So I remember that evening so well. It was dark and it was raining. There was nobody at home. But I realized I had to go and confront this guy and stop this. I walked up to the bookstore and I confronted him. I made him realize that he was doing wrong. And I even threatened him that I would get the police to his door. So later on, he did stop. And I felt, of course, a sense of victory because I had the courage to do this alone. Later, as my son, so to go back to my son's childhood, as a mother, I wanted to give the best for my child. And I taught him in many different ways, ways which were unconventional and sometimes practical. And in those days, there were no laptops, there were no pen drives or hard drives or anything, but we had floppies. I found some floppies with educational games in them. I bought these for my son. So these games were in science, in math, and even English grammar. My son was addicted to them. His lunch was in front of the computer screen where he played not PUBG, but science games, math games, and learned English grammar. He showed much enthusiasm and was very much interested in learning. And he built an extremely strong foundation. So as the world went digital, I thought of bringing this to the to our world too, as in taking this whole thing online and creating my website, Starchild. It was a massive task. I was looking at 2 boards, 7 classes, so I wanted standard 1 to 7. And yes, each of these had 4 to 5 subjects. I also wanted my website to be colorful, child-friendly, interactive, and gamified. So I worked very hard on this. I put my heart and soul into this. And within a few months, this website was ready. And it was just the way I wanted it to be. This time, the challenges were different. It was not whether I would succeed, but I had to succeed. For digital education had come in a big way, and the company prices were skyrocketing. It was assumed I would do the same, and I would achieve the same. But this did not happen. The picture was not so rosy. And as time went by, and the costs increased, I had to pay costs every month, I found I had no money to pay these costs. I did not want to be a burden to my family. I started taking up tuitions and paying for these costs from the income that I earned. However, things were still not working out. I felt an utter failure. I lost my confidence. And I began to think of giving up. On the other hand, I also felt that I had come a long way from being a teacher to an entrepreneur. And I also realized that I probably needed many more skills. So I wondered whether I should go back to learning again. Many people in my family, and of course even friends, told me that I was obsessed with my website. I had to give up. Why was I doing this? Some even told me it was time to retire. Look at your age. Why don't you retire? Why don't you just enjoy yourself? However, I still could not give up. So I went ahead and became a student again. I went on to learn so many things. I learned to manage my own education portal. I learned how to use social media. I learned digital marketing. I learned marketing skills. I learned so much, and I'm still learning. And I realized that, yes, everything is possible if one has the perseverance, hard work, and courage. So finally, as I said, I'm a very positive person, and I always seek solutions and not problems. So I'm still learning, and I have also, of course, solved many of my problems, and I'm so happy about it. And as for Starchild, yes, it is along its way. It has begun, its journey. So before I end, I encourage all of you to, to dream, and to dream on and never give up on dreaming until you achieve your goals. Also to learn and never stop learning, because your growth is only in the learning. And lastly, age is just a number. So, never let it come between your goals. Thank you very much.